Welcome to Amish Roots, plain talk in a modern world. Thank you for joining me. When I first decided to start sharing my stories, a friend encouraged me not to forget to tell the one about meeting my hero. Not exactly sure how I would define someone as a hero, but I know that from the age of 8, I was fascinated with Guy Lafleur. Guy played hockey for the Montreal Canadiens in the National Hockey League. And even before I saw him play, I heard about number 10. Keep in mind that I was Amish at the time. My dad was a passionate hockey fan and would slip out Saturday evenings to the neighbors and watch Hockey Night in Canada, taking along some of my older siblings. Hearing them talk about the games and knowing my dad cheered for Montreal fueled my desire for the sport and the Canadians in particular. I followed the game by reading about it in the newspaper and listening to my schoolmates discuss it. When I saw my first game, I was drawn to a young man with flowing blonde hair who seemed to glide effortlessly over the ice and score easily. The commentators raved about him, and I was hooked. Over the years, I developed a fanatical like for Mr. Lafleur and the Canadians. I'm just going to show you what I'm wearing today. So I have a Montreal Canadiens shirt, and of course on the back it says Guy Lafleur, number 10. So yeah, I bought this as soon as I had enough money to purchase something. When I saw my first game, as I said, I was drawn to him, and over the years, I developed fanatical like for him. I would watch as many games involving Guy as I could, which was not as often as I liked because the dreaded Toronto Maple Leafs always got preference on the local station. So I always had to wait until they played Montreal. I dreamt about what it would be like to meet this larger than life star whom I admired. And then the opportunity of a lifetime presented itself. I saw in the newspaper that Guy Lafleur was coming to a local mall to sign autographs as a promotion for a company. I no longer recall who it was, probably because I stopped reading after seeing that Guy was coming to a venue nearby. Guy had since retired from playing hockey, but he had not retired from being my favorite player. In fact, I cried the day I opened the paper and saw the front page stating that Guy Lafleur was retiring. I wanted him to play forever. My sister and I had also traveled by train to Montreal to see a game at the Forum in hopes of catching a glimpse of him, to no avail. So here I have a picture. You can kind of see me in the corner there at the Forum. So, and although we enjoyed the game and the train ride, they were both firsts for us. Now in my 30s, I had my chance. The only problem was finding someone to take me to the venue to see Guy, since the horse and buggy would not get me into the city. When I asked, a dear friend said she would do it, even though she couldn't care less about meeting a hockey player. But she knew how much it meant to me. So I put on my Guy Lafleur sweatshirt, which I had won by collecting craft labels from peanut butter and craft dinner, etc. So as soon as I had enough labels collected, I could order a shirt. I wore it under my coat in case I ran into other Amish folk at the mall. When we arrived, there was a long line waiting down the hallway of the mall. And I saw the table where Guy would be sitting to sign autographs, and my excitement started to build. Then he walked in, and everyone started to cheer and clap, and I became quite nervous. I was closer to the back of the line than the front, so I had to wait in uneasy anticipation for my turn. I had taken Guy's autobiography book that some friends had given me for Christmas. So they gave me this book, but I didn't want to ruin that hardcover book. So I took a softcover version of it for him to sign. As I waited, the lady in front of me noticed my shirt and the book I was clutching and asked if I was a fan of Lafleur's. What an innocent question. I'm not sure she was prepared for the long monologue of my description of how excited I was and how I had wanted to meet him in like forever. I also confessed to her that I was anxious about what to say to him. I remember her saying it would be fine and to tell him I was a fan and just wanted his autograph. As my turn was creeping closer, I noticed the local news station had shown up to record the event. And I remember thinking, I hope they don't put me on the news because that would not go over well in my Amish community. I did notice that the lady in front of me went to speak with them when she was finished. But now it was my turn, and everything was forgotten except the task at hand. He was sitting as I approached, and he noticed his face on my shirt. So he's got a little big, and he gave me a big smile and said, I see you're a fan, or something like that. And I got all embarrassed and said, yes. And could I have the book signed? Which he did. So you can see he signed my book, and it says, To Ruth, enjoy it, Guy Lafleur, number 10. My friend who had brought me then asked me to turn and smile so she could take a picture. Guy then jumped up and told me to come around the table, and he posed with me. So here's the picture of me getting me getting it me getting it signed, and then also me posing behind the table with him. I couldn't believe how nice he was and so accommodating to make everyone feel special. I think I was expecting, as he was a star, he might be a bit standoffish, but he was the total opposite. I thanked him and moved to leave, only to have the news reporter come to me and say, I hear you are a huge Guy fan. And that is when I noticed the lady that had stood in line ahead of me. She was giggling and giving me a thumbs up. And I realized then that she was the one who had talked to them and set me up to be interviewed. I was flushed with excitement at having just met my hero. And this is when I became flustered and pathetic. So here's a picture of me being interviewed. So the reporter asked me what it felt like to meet Guy Lafleur. And I gushed and I said something to the effect of, Oh, it was great and it was a dream of mine for a long time. And I would have given up 2 weeks in Florida to be here today. You see, I was booked to go to Florida with some friends in a few months. Lucky for me, I got to do both. Well, I made the local news that night when they did the segment about Guy being at the mall. I did not see it until a friend showed me because she had taped it. Under my picture on the screen, it said, a fan of Guy Lafleur. Ach, die Lieber! There was no backlash from the church, possibly because no Amish person saw it, because they don't have TV. Meeting Guy Lafleur was a dream come true, and I treasure the memory to this day. The day he passed away was another episode of tears. They televised his funeral, and I sat wrapped in my Montreal Canadian blanket with a box of Kleenex nearby and cried. And as we say when those we care about pass away, Guy is gone, but not forgotten. Mach's gut, and we will see you July 9th on Amish Roots.